Henry thought he knew Aria, his wife of 5 years, until her laugh at a stranger's joke cut deeper than any knife. When she danced with another man at a gala, he didn't just walk away. He vanished, leaving behind a single photo that unraveled her secrets. But when a chilling note arrived, Henry realized he wasn't just escaping a broken marriage. He was running from a predator who'd been watching him all along. This is a story of betrayal, revenge, and reclaiming your life. Henry stood at the edge of the crowded Seattle gala, the hum of chatter and clinking glasses filling the air. The charity event was in full swing, a sea of suits and dresses moving under the soft glow of string lights. He adjusted the small velvet box in his pocket, a custom necklace he'd spent weeks designing for Aria, his wife of 5 years. Tonight was their anniversary, and he'd planned to surprise her after the speeches. His heart raced, not from nerves, but from the quiet pride of knowing he'd gotten it right this time. Aria loved thoughtful gestures, and this one was perfect. He scanned the room for her. Aria, a 31-year-old marketing exec with a knack for charming clients, was in her element, weaving through the crowd with a laugh that could cut through any noise. Henry, a software engineer who preferred code to small talk, usually watched her shine from the sidelines. Tonight, though, he felt different, lighter, like maybe after months of tension, they were finally sinking again. He spotted her near the dance floor, her dark hair catching the light as she leaned toward a man Henry recognized. Ethan, her co-worker. Ethan was all charisma, the kind of guy who could sell sand in a desert. Aria had mentioned him in passing, just a guy from the office, good at closing deals. But the way she tilted her head now, the way her hand lingered on his arm, didn't feel like just anything. Henry's stomach tightened, but he brushed it off. She was networking. That's all. He approached, weaving past a group of donors debating tech stocks. Aria, he said, his voice steady but soft. She turned, her eyes bright, but there was a flicker, something guarded. Hey, you're missing the fun, she teased, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. Ethan grinned, extending a hand. Henry, right? Good to meet you. Aria's told me about your coding wizardry. Henry shook his hand, noting Ethan's grip was just a shade too firm. Yeah, that's me, he said, forcing a chuckle. Aria, can we talk for a sec? She raised an eyebrow, but followed him a few steps away. The music shifted to a slower beat, couples drifting onto the dance floor. What's up? She asked, her tone light but impatient. Henry hesitated, the weight of the velvet box grounding him. Don't dance with him, he said quietly. It's our night. Let's do this together. He wasn't jealous. Not exactly. It was more a gut instinct, a whisper that something was off. Aria's laugh came sharp and sudden, like a glass breaking. Henry, come on. It's just a dance. Don't be so serious. Her words stung, but her dismissive giggle hurt worse. Before he could respond, she turned back to Ethan, who was waiting with an easy smile. Save me a dance later. Okay, she called over her shoulder, already moving toward the dance floor. Ethan took her hand, and they glided into the crowd, her laughter trailing behind. Henry stood frozen, the velvet box heavy in his pocket. He didn't yell or chase her. He didn't need to. The moment her hand touched Ethan's, something in Henry snapped, not with anger, but with clarity. He'd been holding onto a marriage that was already slipping through his fingers. He turned and walked toward the exit, the gala's noise fading with each step. Outside, the cool Seattle air hit him like a wake-up call. He pulled out his phone, stared at the lock screen, a photo of him and Aria from their honeymoon, laughing on a beach, and then tossed it into the park fountain across the street. The splash was soft, final. He'd been planning this for weeks, though he hadn't admitted it to himself until now. The hidden bank account under James Carter, the small sums he'd siphoned from their joint savings, the bus ticket to a nowhere town in Oregon. It wasn't an impulse. It was an exit strategy. Before leaving, he slipped the velvet box into Aria's purse, left unattended on a table near the coat check. Inside, with the necklace, was a note. You chose him. I'm choosing me. He didn't sign it. He didn't need to. The gravel crunched under his shoes as he walked down the venue's driveway, past the valets and the glittering cars, toward the main road. The bus stop was miles away, but the distance didn't matter. Each step felt like shedding a weight he'd carried for too long. Henry hadn't always been this decisive. At 32, he was a guy who fixed problems quietly, debugging code, paying bills early, planning anniversaries Aria barely acknowledged. He'd met her in college, where her energy lit up every room, and his steady presence grounded her. They built a life in Seattle, or so he thought. But over the past year, Arya had changed. Late nights at work, vague excuses, her phone always angled just out of sight. Henry had asked once, point blank, if she still loved him. "Why do you always make it so dramatic?" she'd snapped, and he'd let it go. He always let it go. Not tonight. The gala was the last straw, but the cracks had been forming for months. He'd found a locked app on her phone weeks ago, accessed it with a password she hadn't changed since college. Inside were texts, photos, Arya and Ethan at a bar, her head on his shoulder, his hand on her waist. Nothing explicit, but enough to confirm what Henry's gut had been screaming. He hadn't confronted her. Instead, he'd started planning. Small moves, careful ones. A new email, a burner phone, a bank account she'd never find. He wasn't running from her. He was running toward freedom. The bus station was quiet, a fluorescent-lit limbo of plastic chairs and tired travelers. Henry paid cash for his ticket, the name James Carter printed in smudged ink. The bus to Oregon wouldn't leave for an hour, so he sat, replaying the night. Arya's laugh, Ethan's smirk, the way she hadn't even looked back as she danced away. He didn't feel rage, not anymore. Just a heavy, aching stillness, like the moment before a program finishes compiling. Success or failure, it was done. His thoughts drifted to the photo he'd mailed earlier that day, before the gala. A snapshot from Arya's phone. Her and Ethan, too close, too familiar. He'd sent it to Ethan's wife, Lauren, with a simple note: "You deserve the truth." It wasn't revenge, not exactly. It was a reckoning. Henry didn't know Lauren, but he'd seen her name on Ethan's LinkedIn, listed as his emergency contact. If Arya could dance with Ethan in front of everyone, Lauren deserved to know who she was married to. The bus pulled up, its engine rumbling. Henry boarded, taking a seat near the back. As the city lights faded, he leaned against the window, the cool glass grounding him. He didn't know what came next, not exactly. But for the first time in months, he wasn't waiting for Arya to choose him. He'd chosen himself. The bus rattled along the dark Oregon highway, its hum a steady companion to Henry's racing thoughts. He'd left Seattle behind, his job, his apartment, his marriage, under the alias James Carter. The name felt foreign, like a borrowed coat, but it was a shield now. Tucked in his backpack was a burner phone, a wad of cash, and a single change of clothes. No ties to his old life. No way for Arya to track him. The photo he'd mailed to Ethan's wife, Lauren, was his final move, a quiet jab to disrupt the lies Arya and Ethan wove so easily. As the bus rolled into a small town called Tillamook, Henry exhaled. Step 1, disappear. Step 2, figure out what came next. Tillamook was a speck of a place, all dairy farms and foggy coastlines. Henry checked into a motel off the main road, paying cash to a bored clerk who barely glanced at his fake ID. The room smelled of damp carpet, but it was a start. He powered on the burner phone and set up a new email, routing it through a VPN. Paranoid? Maybe. But he'd spent months watching Arya's secrets pile up. Texts, late nights, that locked app on her phone. He wasn't taking chances. His first night was restless, the weight of his decisions sinking in. He'd walked away from everything, but the ache of Arya's betrayal lingered like a bruise. To distract himself, he pulled up the cloud archive he'd backed up before tossing his old phone. There it was, the evidence he'd found weeks ago. Screenshots of Arya's texts with Ethan, flirty, suggestive, planned. Photos of them at a rooftop bar, her smile too bright, his hand too low. Henry hadn't confronted her then. He'd been too stunned, too busy convincing himself it was a phase. Now, staring at the images, he felt only resolve. He'd done the right thing, mailing that photo to Lauren. Let the truth do the work. The next morning, Henry walked to a diner across the street, the kind of place where locals lingered over coffee and nobody asked questions. He ordered eggs and toast, keeping his head down, and opened a cheap laptop he'd bought with cash. A quick search on Ethan Harrelson pulled up his LinkedIn, VP of Operations at a Seattle tech logistics firm, all polished buzzwords and corporate headshots. But digging deeper, Henry found cracks. A buried forum post from 2 years ago. If you work with Ethan H., watch your back. He's charming until he's not. No details, just a username and a warning. Another post, older, mentioned a restraining order. Henry's pulse quickened. Who was this guy Arya had chosen over him? His phone buzzed. An unknown number. Henry froze, then answered. Henry, Aria's voice, sharp with panic. Where are you? He didn't respond, letting the silence stretch. You left, she said, softer now. You actually left. And that note in my purse. What the hell, Henry? He stayed quiet, gripping the phone. She wasn't sorry. She was rattled. I found a necklace, she added. Why would you do this? Do what? He finally said, his voice low. Tell the truth? You danced with him, Aria, in front of everyone. You laughed when I asked you not to. It was just a dance, she snapped, but her voice cracked. You're blowing this out of proportion. Then why are you calling? He asked. She didn't answer. He hung up, his hands shaking. The diner's chatter felt distant now, the world narrowing to that call. Aria identi apologized. She hadn't even tried to explain. She was fishing, testing if he'd come back. He wouldn't. That afternoon, Henry walked the town's quiet streets, mapping his next move. He needed to stay low, but he couldn't shake the forum posts about Ethan. If they were true, Ethan wasn't just a cheater, he was dangerous. Henry stopped at a library, using a public computer to dig deeper. He found an old news article, barely a paragraph, about a workplace harassment claim at Ethan's previous company. The claimant, a woman named Mia Dunn, had withdrawn her complaint and vanished from online records. No linkage, no social media. Like she'd been erased. Henry scoot twisted. Was this what Ethan did? Silence people who got in his way? Back at the motel, Henry checked his burner phone again. A new text from an unknown number. What the hell did you do? No name, but it was Aria. He ignored it, but 5 hours later, another came. Call me, please. You don't understand what you've done. The words hit differently, not guilt, but fear. Henry hesitated, then dialed. She picked up on the first ring, breathless. Henry, thank God. Where are you? Why does it matter? He said, keeping his voice even. What's going on, Aria? You sent that photo to Lauren, she whispered like someone might hear. Ethan's wife. She confronted him. He's furious, Henry. You don't know what he's like. Then tell me, he said, his jaw tight. Who is he? She paused too long. He's married, okay? That photo, it could ruin him. Lauren's unstable. She's been suspicious for years. If she spreads it, his career's done. Henry almost laughed. You're worried about him? You danced with him in front of me. You chose him, Aria. It's not that simple, she said, her voice breaking. You don't get it. He's not safe. The line went silent. Henry's heart pounded. What do you mean, not safe? Just stay away, she said. Please, don't do anything else. She hung up before he could push further. Henry sat on the motel bed, staring at the phone. Aria's fear was real, but it wasn't for him. It was for Ethan, or maybe herself. He opened his laptop again, searching Ethan's name with new keywords. Restraining order, harassment, threats. A pattern emerged. Vague mentions of former colleagues who'd left suddenly, projects derailed, whispers of Ethan's persuasive tactics. Nothing concrete, but enough to make Henry's skin crawl. He wasn't just running from a broken marriage. He was running from a man who played games with people's lives. That night, unable to sleep, Henry walked to a gas station for coffee. The clerk, an older woman, eyed his cash payment, but said nothing. As he stepped outside, a car idled across the lot, its headlights off. Henry froze, his breath catching. The car didn't move, but he felt watched. He hurried back to the motel, locking the door behind him. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe he was paranoid. But Aria's words echoed. He's not safe. By morning, Henry made a decision. He couldn't keep running blind. He needed answers, and Lauren, Ethan's wife, was the only one who might have them. He found her number in the email he'd used to send the photo. Anonymously, he'd thought, but now he wasn't sure. If Ethan was as dangerous as Aria hinted, Lauren might be in trouble too. Henry typed a short message. I'm the one who sent the photo. We need to talk. Name the place. He hit send, his heart in his throat. The game had changed, and he was no longer just a player. He was a target. Henry's burner phone buzzed at 2:41 a.m. The screen's glow cutting through the dim motel room in Tillamook. He jolted upright, heart hammering, as he read the message from Lauren. Tacoma, Bluebird Cafe, 10 a.m. Come alone. No pleasantries, no hesitation. Just coordinates for a meeting that could either clarify everything or pull him deeper into the mess he'd started. He hadn't slept since Aria's call, her warning, he's not safe, looping in his mind. The idling car he'd seen at the gas station last night didn't help. It had peeled away before he could get a look, but the memory of its dark silhouette kept him on edge. By sunrise, Henry was on a bus to Tacoma, his backpack light, but his thoughts heavy. He'd spent the early hours digging deeper online, using the motel's spotty Wi-Fi. Ethan Harrelson's name surfaced in more corners of the internet than he'd expected. Old employee reviews calling him intense and controlling. A dismissed lawsuit from a former assistant who'd claimed coercion but settled out of court. The details were thin, but the pattern was clear. Ethan didn't just cheat. He manipulated, silenced, erased. Henry's decision to mail that photo to Lauren wasn't just a jab at Aria's betrayal. It had poked a hornet's nest. The Bluebird Cafe sat on a quiet Tacoma street, its faded sign barely visible through the morning fog. Henry arrived early, choosing a corner table with a clear view of the door. His burner phone sat face up, Lauren's number ready. He'd texted her to confirm, but no reply yet. The waitress poured him coffee without a word, and he sipped it, eyes scanning every passerby. At 10:03, a woman walked in, mid-30s, sharp-eyed, moving with purpose. She spotted Henry instantly and slid into the seat across from him. "You're the guy who sent the photo," she said, not a question. "I'm Lauren." Henry nodded, studying her. No fear in her posture, just a quiet intensity, like someone who'd learned to live with danger and come out harder for it. "Why'd you do it?" she asked, her voice low. "You could have just left." "I was tired of being invisible," Henry said. "Aria, my wife, she danced with your husband at a gala, laughed in my face when I asked her not to. I found their texts, photos. I sent you one because you deserve to know." Lauren's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. "I knew," she said. "Not about your wife, specifically, but about Ethan. He's been pulling this for years. Charming women, co-workers, interns. He doesn't just cheat. He collects leverage. Make sure no one talks." She pulled a slim folder from her bag and slid it across the table. "Open it." Henry flipped it open. Inside were printouts, emails, text screenshots, a grainy photo of Ethan at a bar with a woman who wasn't Aria or Lauren. One email, from an anonymous account, detailed a workplace incident at Ethan's old firm. A temp named Mia Dunn who'd filed a harassment claim, then vanished after a payout. Another was a restraining order filed by a man named Taryn Lowe, a former intern who claimed Ethan had threatened his career. "How'd you get this?" Henry asked, his voice tight. "I've been building a file for years," Lauren said. "Ethan's careful, but not perfect. I hired a PI last year after I found his second phone. These are just pieces, but they're enough to show what he is." Henry's mind raced. "Aria called me last night, scared. Said Ethan's dangerous. I shouldn't have sent you that photo. She said he's coming for me." Lauren leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "She's right. Ethan doesn't forgive slights. You exposed him, and he'll want you quiet. Not dead, too messy. He prefers to make people disappear. Jobs, reputations, lives. He's good at it." Henry's coffee went cold in his hands. "So what do I do? Keep running?" "No," Lauren said, her voice like steel. "You fight smart. I've got a contact at Ethan's company, an HR rep who's been waiting for evidence to reopen old complaints. We send his file anonymously, let them tear him apart from the inside. But you need to stay off his radar." Before Henry could respond, his phone buzzed. Another unknown number. He showed Lauren the screen, and her expression darkened. "Don't answer," she said. "Could be him." The call went to voicemail, but no message followed. Seconds later, a text. "You can't hide forever, James." Henry's blood ran cold. Ethan knew his alias. How? Adia? A leak? He'd been so careful. Cash only, no cards, no real name. "How does he know I'm James Carter?" Henry asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lauren's eyes flicked to the door, then back to him. "He's been watching you longer than you think. Probably tracked your phone before you ditched it. Or he got to Aria. She's scared, you said. Scared people talk." Henry's mind flashed to the gala. The way Ethan's handshake lingered, his smile too knowing. Had he been playing a longer game? Watching Henry even then? What's his endgame? Henry asked. "Control," Lauren said. "He thrives on it. You're a threat because you acted, didn't just fold. That's why he's coming for you. Not to hurt you, but to make you regret it." She tapped the folder. "This is your leverage. Send it to the HR rep. I'll give you the email. But after that, you need to vanish for real. No motels, no buses. Somewhere he can't follow." Henry nodded, his resolve hardening. "Where?" "Your hometown," Lauren said. Not your share place with Arya. Somewhere Ethan doesn't know, where his charm doesn't reach. You grew up somewhere small, right? Go there. Lie low. Let me handle the rest. Henry thought of his childhood home in Ellensburg, a quiet Washington town of orchards and empty roads. He hadn't been back in years, not since his parents moved away. No one there knew Arya or Ethan. It was perfect. Okay, he said, but why help me? You don't know me. Lauren's gaze softened, just for a second. Because you're the first one who didn't just run. You sent that photo. You fought back. If we don't stop him, he'll keep doing this, to your wife, to others. I've been waiting for someone like you. Henry took the folder, its weight grounding him. What about Arya? She's in deep with him. That's her choice now, Lauren said, standing. You can't save someone who doesn't want saving. Focus on you. She left a burner phone number on a napkin and walked out, her steps deliberate, like someone who'd learned to move without looking back. Henry stayed in the cafe, the folder open in front of him. He emailed the HR contact from a new anonymous account, attaching scans of Lauren's evidence. His hands shook as he hit send, knowing this could unravel Ethan's career, or make Henry a bigger target. He booked a bus to Ellensburg, paying cash again, and deleted the email account. As the bus pulled out of Tacoma, his phone buzzed again. Another text. You're making this harder than it needs to be. No name, but Henry knew. Ethan was close, and he wasn't stopping. Henry's bus rolled into Ellensburg at dusk, the small Washington town quiet under a sky streaked with orange. He ditched his burner phone in Tacoma after Ethan's last text. You're making this harder than it needs to be, and bought a new one at a gas station, paying cash. The folder from Lauren, stuffed with evidence against Ethan, was tucked in his backpack, its contents now emailed to the HR rep at Ethan's company. Henry had done his part. Now, in his childhood hometown, he aimed to disappear. Ellensburg was a place of orchards and empty roads, far from Seattle's buzz and Ethan's reach. No one here knew his story. That was the point. He checked into a boarding house run by an old neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, who didn't ask questions when he gave the name James Carter. Just passing through, she said, handing him a key. Henry nodded, avoiding her eyes. The room was small, functional, with a single window facing a gravel lot. He locked the door, pushed a chair against it, and sat on the bed, replaying Lauren's words. He wants you silent. Ethan wasn't after blood. He wanted Henry erased, his name a footnote in Arya's life. But Henry wasn't playing that game anymore. The next morning, he walked to a local library, using a public computer to check for updates. A Seattle news site had a small article. Tech exec under investigation for workplace misconduct. No names yet, but the company matched Ethan's. Henry's email to HR had landed. Lauren's evidence, emails, texts, that restraining order from Taryn Lowe was doing its job. Henry felt a flicker of relief, but it didn't last. His new phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You think you're safe in Ellensburg? His stomach dropped. How did Ethan know? Adia? A slip-up? Henry deleted the message, powered off the phone, and left the library, scanning the street for unfamiliar cars. He needed a plan. Running wasn't enough. Ethan was too good at finding people. Henry called Lauren's burner number from a payphone near a diner. She answered on the second ring. You're in Ellensburg, she said, not a question. Good choice. He's rattled. The company's digging deeper, and he's been suspended. What does he know where I am? Henry asked, his voice low. Lauren paused. Adia. She's scared, and scared people make mistakes. She might have told him to save herself. Or he's tracking her phone. She's not as careful as you. Henry's grip tightened on the receiver. What do I do now? Stay low, Lauren said. I'm working with a reporter who's been after Ethan for years. She's got sources in his company. We're pushing the story out, but it needs time. If Ethan's texting you, he's desperate. That's good. Desperate people slip. Henry hung up, his mind racing. Arya had betrayed him again, giving Ethan his location. He wasn't surprised, but it stung. He thought of her at the gala, laughing as she danced with Ethan, dismissing Henry's plea like it was nothing. She'd chosen her side, and now she was feeding Ethan intel to protect herself. Henry walked back to the boarding house, keeping to side streets, his eyes on every passing car. He couldn't trust anyone, not even Arya's fear. That night, he sorted through Lauren's folder again, digitizing the contents on a USB drive he'd bought at a corner store. Emails from Mia Dunn, the assistant who'd vanished after her harassment claim. A screenshot of Ethan threatening Taryn Lowe. Talk, and you'll never work again. A photo of Ethan with another woman, time-stamped a year before Arya. Henry backed it all up online, using an encrypted cloud service under a new alias. If Ethan came for him, the truth wouldn't die with him. The next day, Henry's phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time a photo. Him at the library yesterday, head down at the computer. No text, just the image. Henry's heart pounded. Ethan, or someone working for him, was here in Ellensburg. He grabbed his backpack and left the boarding house, heading for a park he'd played in as a kid. It was open, public, harder for anyone to corner him. He sat on a bench, pretending to read a newspaper, but his eyes scanned the area. A man in a gray hoodie lingered near a playground, too far to identify. Henry's pulse spiked, but he stayed put. Running now would only confirm he was scared. His phone buzzed again. Arya. He hesitated, then answered. Henry, please, she said, her voice shaking. You have to stop this. Ethan knows you sent those files. He's losing everything. His job, his reputation. He's blaming you. He should, Henry said, his voice cold. You brought him into our life, Arya. You knew he was married. You knew he was trouble. I didn't know how bad he was, she said. He was charming, okay? He made me feel seen, but then he started controlling everything. My phone, my schedule. I couldn't get out. When you sent that photo to Lauren, he went crazy. He thinks you're trying to ruin him. I am, Henry said. He doesn't get to walk away from this. Neither do you. Arya's voice cracked. I'm sorry, Henry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Just come back. We can fix this. There's no we anymore, he said and hung up. Her apology fell hollow, a reflex to save herself. He deleted her number, his hand steady now. Arya wasn't his problem. Ethan was. That afternoon, Henry met a local, an old high school friend named Sam, at a coffee shop. Sam ran a small IT business and owed Henry a favor from years back. I need a way to stay off the grid, Henry said, sliding the USB drive across the table. Back this up somewhere safe. If anything happens to me, send it to every news outlet in Seattle. Sam raised an eyebrow, but nodded. You in trouble, man? Something like that, Henry said. Just keep it quiet. Sam pocketed the drive, no questions asked. Henry left, feeling lighter. The evidence was out of his hands now, a failsafe if Ethan got too close. As night fell, Henry returned to the boarding house, but a new text stopped him cold. Check your door. He approached cautiously, his breath shallow. Taped to the door was a manila envelope. No name, no label. Inside, another photo. Him at the park that morning, newspaper in hand. A note in sharp handwriting. Stop, or you'll regret it. Henry's blood ran cold. Ethan wasn't just watching. He was here, or someone was. Henry scanned the lot, but it was empty. He tore the note into pieces, his resolve hardening. He wasn't running anymore. He dialed Lauren. He's in Ellensburg, he said. I need your reporter's contact. It's time to end this. Lauren's voice was calm, but urgent. Send me the photo and note. I'll get them to her. Stay sharp, Henry. He's cornered, and that's when he's most dangerous. Henry hung up, his mind clear. Ethan wanted him silent, but Henry was done hiding. The game was on, and this time, he'd play to win. Henry stood in the gravel lot outside the Ellensburg boarding house. The torn pieces of Ethan's note. Stop, or you'll regret it, scattered at his feet. The photo of him at the park, taken just hours earlier, was now on its way to Lauren's reporter contact, along with the rest of her folder's evidence. Ethan was close, hunting him, but Henry was done running. He'd sent the truth out into the world, and now it was time to stand his ground in the only place that still felt like his hometown. Ellensburg's quiet streets and familiar corners were his shield, a place where Ethan's charm and threats held no sway. Henry called Lauren from a payphone at a gas station, avoiding his burner phone. The reporter has everything, she confirmed, her voice steady. She's breaking the story tomorrow. Ethan's harassment, the payouts, the restraining orders. His company's already distancing itself. He's done, Henry, but he's desperate. Watch your back. Too late for that, Henry said, glancing at the empty road. He's here. That photo was taken today. Lauren paused, then stay public. No dark alleys, no motels. He won't move where people can see. I'm coming to Ellensburg tonight with a reporter. We'll meet you at the diner on Main Street. 8 p.m. Bring everything you've got. Henry hung up, his pulse steady. He'd already entrusted a copy of the evidence to Sam, his old friend, as a failsafe. If Ethan tried anything, the truth would still get out. He spent the day in plain sight, moving between the library, the diner, and a hardware store where he bought a small flashlight and a pocket knife. Not for fighting, but for peace of mind. Every stranger's glance felt like a threat, but he kept moving, refusing to hide. At 6 p.m., his burner phone buzzed. Adia. He almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Henry, you have to stop, she said, her voice raw. Ethan's losing it. He knows about the article. He thinks I helped you. Did you? Henry asked, his tone flat. No, I didn't know you'd go this far. I thought you'd just leave. Her words trembled, but Henry felt nothing. She'd given Ethan his location, sold him out to save herself. Her regret was too late. You made your choice at the gala, he said. Live with it. He hung up, deleted her number, and powered off the phone. Arya was a ghost now, a piece of his past he no longer needed. At 8 p.m., Henry sat in the Main Street diner, the folder's contents spread before him. Lauren arrived with a woman in her 40s, Karen, the reporter. Her handshake was firm, her questions sharper. You're sure about this? She asked, scanning the emails and photos. Once this goes live, there's no going back. I'm sure, Henry said. He's been silencing people for years. Mia Dunn, Taryn Lowe, who knows how many others. It ends now. Karen nodded, tucking the documents into her bag. The article drops at midnight. We've got corroboration from 2 former employees who came forward after your email to HR. Ethan's finished. Lauren added, his wife's filing for divorce tomorrow. I'm done hiding too. Henry felt a weight lift, but it didn't last. As they spoke, a man entered the diner, gray hoodie, head down. Henry's heart skipped. The same figure from the park? The man ordered coffee at the counter, never looking their way, but his presence screamed warning. Lauren noticed, her eyes narrowing. We need to move, she whispered. Now. They left through a side exit, slipping into the cool night. Karen drove them to a motel on the edge of town, where she'd booked a room to finalize the article. Henry stayed vigilant, checking the lot for idling cars. At 11 p.m., Karen's phone pinged, a draft of the article ready to publish. It detailed Ethan's pattern. Coercion, threats, buried complaints. Henry's evidence was the backbone, but his name was kept out. You're clear, Karen said. He won't know it's you. At midnight, the article went live. Henry watched the news site on Karen's laptop. The headline stark, Tech VP faces misconduct allegations. Resignation imminent. By morning, Ethan's LinkedIn was gone, his company issuing a statement about ongoing investigations. Social media buzzed with anonymous posts from former colleagues, adding fuel. Ethan was unraveling, and Henry hadn't thrown a punch. The next day, Lauren got a call from her PI. Ethan had left Seattle, his apartment empty, his car sold. He's gone quiet, she told Henry. Probably hiding, licking his wounds. You did it. Henry nodded, but he wasn't celebrating. Not yet. He returned to the boarding house, expecting another note, another photo. Nothing came. Days passed, then weeks. No texts, no saludos. Ethan had vanished, his empire of control in ashes. Henry stayed in Ellensburg, renting a small apartment above a bookstore. He took a job at a local tech startup, mentoring kids and coding on weekends. The work grounded him, gave him purpose. Arya sent one final text a month later. I'm sorry. I was wrong. He didn't reply. Her apology wasn't for him. It was for her own guilt. He'd stopped needing her to see him. Lauren called one last time. I'm free, she said simply. Divorce is final. Ethan's blacklisted in the industry. He's nobody now. Henry thanked her, not just for the update, but for showing him how to fight smart. She'd taken his spark and turned it into a fire, all without breaking the law. Henry sat down that night and wrote his story for Reddit Confessions, every detail from the gala to the diner. He didn't write for revenge or pity. He wrote to let go, to tell others they could walk away from what broke them and still stand tall. You don't have to yell to be heard, he typed. Sometimes walking away is the loudest thing you can do. He hit post, shut his laptop, and stepped outside. The Ellensburg air was crisp, clean. For the first time in years, he wasn't looking over his shoulder. He was home.